Breaking news. As the effects of isolation take hold, Russian researchers are skipping out on international conferences. Moscow-born oncologist Andrei Gudkov has been a go-between for American and Russian researchers since he left the USSR in 1990. Professor at New York's Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center, he has collaborated with Russian cancer centers for the past 3 decades, conducting research, organizing symposia, reviewing grant proposals, and hosting a number of scholars from Russia. On 24 February, 2022, however, President Vladimir Putin gave the order for his tanks to invade Ukraine, and everything changed. Some of his former co-workers won't even talk to him on the phone any longer. Gudkov limits the number of phone calls he makes to Russia, so as not to put his colleagues there at risk. Some people obviously don't want to answer calls from the US, he said. As problematic as email can be, some people prefer to communicate in private through apps like Telegram. After all, oncology is hardly a military critical field, and Gudkov insists that his colleagues aren't afraid of being accused of giving away crucial secrets. He explained that Russian society's current witch hunt against those who maintain ties to the West, which is more reviled than ever before as a enemy and a evil force, was the real reason for the radio silence. More than 18 months after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, evaluating the country's scientific climate is challenging due to the pervasive atmosphere of fear and secrecy. It's understandable that Russian academics would be wary of speaking to Western colleagues, let alone journalists. A series of high-profile treason trials, travel restrictions, a severing of official projects with the West, an exodus of top academics, and difficulty getting lab equipment due to sanctions all paint a picture of a system in rapid retreat from international science, as do the results of publications and anonymous interviews. Decline in conference paper submissions. Putin denied the success of a scientific de facto blockade by other countries, including restrictions on access to technology, during his July appearance at a quantum technologies conference in Moscow. The only way Russia can move forward, he told the delegates with stone faces, is if it doesn't isolate itself from the rest of the world. However, the data show that Russia's participation in the international scientific conversation was significantly impacted by the war. The share of conference papers written by researchers with ties to Russia dropped by 40% in 2022 and has remained low this year. In 2021, there were about 35,000 conference papers with at least one author based in Russia. The following year, that number dropped to about 20,000. There have only been 10,597 books released so far in 2023. This has reversed half a decade of rapid growth and suggests Russian academics are withdrawing from the central fora of global scientific collaboration, which could have significant repercussions for future joint papers and collaborations. Andrei Kalinichev, a Russian-born research director at IMT Atlantique, a technology university in France, said, "There is a huge drop in Russian participation at international conferences over the last year and a half, almost down to complete zero. And I observed this myself while participating in such events. Where I would have usually expected a dozen or two of Russian participants, now I see none or 1 to 2, he wrote in an email. Consider the Institute of Physics in the UK, which hosts a series of conferences under the name Journal of Physics. Traditionally, Russia has been very strong in the field of physics, and since 2000, Russian scientists have published more papers there than anywhere else. But things in the war seem to have stopped moving forward. Around 6,000 papers written by Russians were presented at the series in 2021. In 2022, this plummeted to 1,023. So far in 2023, only 106 papers from Russia have been presented. Loss of co-authored works. The peer review process for actual published papers can take a year or more, making them a lagging indicator compared to those presented at conferences. However, there were warning signs of a decline in Russian-American, Russian-German, and Russian-British collaborative papers in 2018. It is currently not possible to analyze data from 2023 in a comparable manner. Publications with the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, and Japan all fell sharply in 2022, while those with China and India, which have been supportive and neutral towards Moscow following its invasion, continued to grow. Russian digital historian living in Germany Dinara Gagarina wrote this in March on T-Invariant, a website run by émigré Russian academics that provides a rare unfiltered look at Russian science. Kalinichev is on the T-Invariant Coordination Council alongside Gudkov. To which I replied, yes, personal ties and contacts are preserved, and she confirmed my suspicions. But, international collaborations are virtually impossible, academic mobility and event participation have become more difficult on both sides, she said. Treason fears. Kalinichev sees a purposeful pattern behind this disinterest. According to him, since the start of the war, several Russian academics have been tried for treason and the disclosure of classified information, even though in some cases they had the approval of security services at the time. Government officials are now much more suspicious of any contacts with foreign countries since the war began, he said. The closed trial of Anatoly Maslev, a 76-year-old physicist who worked on Russia's hypersonic missile program and is accused of leaking secrets to China, began in St. Petersburg in June. 3 hypersonic missile scientists have been arrested on suspicion of treason, including Maslev. This crackdown has been widely criticized, with Maslev's colleagues arguing in an open letter that he had done nothing more than present at international conferences and participate in international projects. The incident is not an outlier. A quantum scientist who was being held by the Federal Security Service, FSB, died in custody last year. Science claims that another hypersonics expert, Dmitry Kolker, was expelled from a cancer clinic where he was being treated on suspicion of leaking secrets to China. It's true that even before the war, scientists were tried sporadically for allegedly divulging secret information, and the details of these particular cases are murky, given that the processes are closed. However, these convictions appear to have gained traction post-invasion, which is arguably even more frightening to academics in the context of the war's extreme repression. When the climate in the society is like this, no one is safe, said Alexandra Borisova-Sala, a Russian science journalist and communicator currently based in Italy. Nothing out of the ordinary occurred, they just did their regular jobs like attending conferences and giving presentations. Shortly after the invasion in 2022, Russia's Ministry of Education and Science announced that it would not count participation in international conferences as a factor in evaluating Russian scientists, which may have deterred their attendance.